What's up, guys? Tricks Ridiculous back with another video. So in the latest developer stream, the question was posed a number of different ways, whether gear re-rolling or a recalibration system or a reforging system, whatever you want to call it, re-rolling, gear re-rolling, if that was coming to the game at all. And it was danced around. They said they've got some, new things they're working on. There's plenty of opportunity. But long story short, if you read between the lines, gear re-rolling is not coming to the game, okay? At least not in the foreseeable future, not with the current roadmap. It's not something they're focused on. And so I wanted to talk about that today, what that really means for the game. Is it good? Is it bad? I know there's a lot of people pretty vocal about it. Before we do, be sure to like and subscribe if you like discussion videos like this one, so you never miss a video. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So, we hear a lot in the community. It's kind of like an echo chamber of, we need reforging, we need gear re-rolling, we have to have it, we have to have it. And while I'm not opposed to gear re-rolling, I have been, one of the few kind of community content creators, if you want to say that, that's been pretty against it as the game currently stands. So, before you get your pitchforks, don't go crazy on me, but let me explain. I think gear re-rolling could work in this game, but not right now. And the reason it won't work right now is because there's not enough good perks. Okay, like anyone who's been, playing for any reasonable amount of time, or, has at least one or more end game builds, knows there's really only a small handful of perks that you want on all of your gear, right? It's targeted buff is the most, damage buff is the most important perk. Obviously, getting it from targeted buff is one of the easier ways to get it, but damage buff is really like the cornerstone piece that every build pretty much has to have. Past that, you're going to want maybe a Tachyon Surge if you're playing ranged, if you use elements a lot. And then it's like Jarvis Barrier, all right? There might be a few different ones. Defense buff is pretty useful in certain circumstances. Intrinsic burst and heroic charge burst can be good as well, in addition to some of these other pieces. But that's really it. If you look at a lot of the other perks that are in the game, there are actually a surprising number of different perks and different abilities. Think about it. Like, there's a lot that we don't use, right? Shield payload, Pim payload, Vibranium payload, anti-gravity field, stun damage explosion, right? Regular damage explosion. There's a lot of weird perks that no one uses because they're not good, right? So really the only perks that everyone's chasing are the damage buff, the Tachyon Surge buff, and just trying to stack all of the good buffs. So while a gear reforge station in theory, would create more creativity around builds in a normal world, in what you would think. In this game, where it is right now, with the perks that they have right now, it would really do the opposite. It would really streamline everyone's build to be the exact same thing with all the exact same buffs. Pretty much any piece of gear you'd got, if it had a good roll on it, otherwise you would go right to the reforge station, make sure it had the damage buff, or make sure it had the buff you were missing, and then you'd be good. And then there'd be no more gear for you to get. So that's really it. So reforging could work, but there has to be more, a larger pool of perks to choose from, and a larger pool of relevant perks for us to choose from. So that's my thoughts on it. Now, what they're doing, even post that time, it's not like reforging is an absolute staple in games. So hopefully it does come to the game at some point. But even if it doesn't, what would be a nice alternative is more targeted farming. And this is what they did actually say they're working on. So this is something you can actually put some stock into before a gear reforge system. And that's targeted farming. So if you think of other games like Destiny, they have things like this where you can kind of eliminate drops or eliminate rolls to the loot that you might be getting. So for my Destiny players, if you think of something like the Menagerie, if you remember the old Menagerie where you would have like your little card, your little chalice card, and then you could use certain consumables and slot them in before you go into the activity, and you could disable drops, right? So you could say like, I want this particular piece to get. So in Avengers, just to translate it over to Avengers speak, maybe we get some sort of raid challenge card where we could plug in something that says, I don't want boots to drop, or I don't want a heroic piece to drop, or I don't want a melee, a melee slot piece to drop, or I don't want a chest piece to drop. And then you can focus in more and more, and it might cost more resources every time you do that, but you could really focus in to say I really want this drop to be 90% chance to be a ranged piece. I want a 90% chance that it's going to be either Pim, Plasma, or Cosmic, something like that. Those are just examples. I'm just spitballing off the top of my head right now, but you get what I'm saying. And so it wouldn't be, necessarily reforging, but you'd be able to go into missions with a reasonable assumption of saying okay, we're going to go into this and I'm definitely going to get depending on how many, how you build your card, that you're definitely not going to get a chess piece, you're definitely not going to get a heroic piece, and the piece you get is definitely going to be Cosmic, or it's definitely going to be Gamma, and then from there hopefully you still get the drop you want. So there's still going to be an element of RNG to it, but it'll be much more focused, right? So you can really hone in on targeted farming exactly for what you want to farm for. So I think if we get that instead of gear reforging, it's not a perfect answer, but I think it's better than nothing, right? So I would be very comfortable and excited to have something like that in the game where you could really focus in on farming like that. But as a blanket statement, we really need more unique perks, unique gear, usable. And I say unique, unique is not the word, because vibranium payload, shield payload, those are unique perks, but they suck. There need to be rewarding perks. They need to be perks that are worth using on your character, right? It can't just be that everyone gravitates towards the same 5 top tier perks, right? That's not going to work. And if you dropped in a gear reforging system right now, that's exactly what would happen. Everyone would gravitate towards those perks. There would be no creativity. So those are just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think that would work? Do you think a gear reforging system right now would be good, or do you agree with what I'm thinking? Let me know. And as always, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.